This conference will now be recorded.
Hello all, good morning and welcome to the day one session of the OIC training from SSB Technologies. This is Ravi and I have around 11 plus years of experience in the IT industry working as a solution architect in the Oracle Cloud projects, and I've been involved in working for multiple clients and multiple organizations, US based service and product based organizations in the last 11 years. And my day-to-day job role is to design and architect the integrations and cloud projects with other third-party systems or other cloud Oracle and non-Oracle cloud applications with OIC, and designing the complex and the bank integrations or any other third-party integrations with other systems as per the client requirement. So this is what I do in my day-to-day life. So I've started working on Oracle Cloud way back in 2017. So it's been almost like 5 years. I started working as an Oracle Cloud and OIC consultant, and prior to that, I've been working as an Oracle ETS consultant. So this is about me, guys. So before proceeding further, I would request you to unmute yourself and introduce about yourself and set your expectations about this particular training, guys. Can you please feel to unmute yourself and introduce about yourself, one of maybe one after another, all the participants.
Hi, Ravi.
Okay,
Hi, my name is Ranjit. Uh, uh, I have close to 15 years of experience and currently working on a middleware project. I'm moved to middleware very recently, and I need some,
okay,
hands-on. I used to work as a EBS consultant, like you said. So worked on Oracle ERPs throughout my career, and just got an opportunity to work on this middleware piece. And I worked before on the SOA middleware, a little bit
okay,
here and there, but not hands-on. But I used to manage that project and used to do the designs for that and the mapping designs and other stuff, but not hands-on with the SOA. But I can understand the middleware piece, how it works and what the things are.
okay,
But where I'm struggling now is with the cloud and the current project where we are working all three pieces on cloud, PaaS, SaaS, and IaaS.
okay,
So that's where it's not just one environment where we have cloud, it's everything cloud now. So,
yeah,
and yeah, it's getting little uneasy with the whole structure, how we do in the good old days of EBS here. So especially I'm working with the API CS. Do you recognize
Okay.
that? Yeah,
Yes,
within
yes, yes.
OIC. Yeah. So that's where I'm struggling with, and I was tasked to do something there. And OIC is another thing. The major part where I'm struggling is probably the other attendants might not need these details, but probably we can have an offline chat after this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what my background is.
Yeah. Thanks, Ranjit.
Thank you.
So we also have other participants. So can you please unmute yourself and introduce before we proceed further? So
Attendee 6 is mute. Probably he just joined, he or she.
yeah, yeah. So can you please unmute yourself and other participants? Can you please introduce about yourself, your experience, and any even if you have experience or your apprenticeship, that should be fine. So can you please introduce about yourself? Okay, that's fine. So let us proceed with the session. So yeah. So in today's agenda, I would like to discuss about what exactly is cloud computing about and what are the different types of cloud service models that are available with us. And okay, there's a typo here. Why do we require OIC? And we'll also try to understand in the cloud service models how these cloud service models will basically help us uh, in performing the task and how this will be incorporated as a part of the cloud computing. And we'll also discuss about why do we require OIC, right? And we'll also what exactly is about what exactly is OIC, and uh, how does OIC help us with the current IT trend, and what kind of opportunities or what kind of tasks can be performed using OIC. And we'll also discuss about what are the integration challenges in the current IT trend, and we need to understand why OIC is required and what is OIC as well, because this will give you a high level overview about the other integration services that are available in the IT industry and what is the advantage that you get when you use OIC as a integration service provider or as a iPaaS service provider. And we'll also try to understand what are the different components that are available in OIC. So normally we understand that OIC is one single component. When you spell it, OIC just basically breaks down to one single component, but internally it has three different components inside it. The first component is called as integrations, where we also used to call it as integration cloud service. The second component is called as process cloud service, which is also abbreviated as PCS. And we also have something called as VBCS, which we also call it as virtual builder cloud service. So we'll get to understand what is the importance of these three components that are available in the OIC and what is the advantage of these three components and when and where to use these components, and we'll have a high level details about these components, and we'll also try to understand what are the different kinds of flavors available in OIC, and we'll discuss about the course content and what are we going to discuss in this course tenure and what what do participants get once they enroll to this course is what we'll get to discuss as a part of today's session. So what exactly is a cloud and what is cloud computing? So as you guys see that as we go to the abbreviation, it says that cloud computing is basically on-demand delivery of your computing services or your usage of your database or using any applications or any other services which are exposed through a cloud with a proper internet connection and with pay-as-you-go service. Because you and the main advantage here is without direct active management by the user. That means user is not going to manage anything over here. Just the only thing what user needs to do is he just need to have a proper internet connection and he should have a proper subscription to use a particular application. So let's just take an example. So earlier when we do not have this cloud coming into picture or before we have a cloud, what we used to do whenever we used to have any data, we used to store the data on our computer hard disks. But later at some point of time, what we used to do, we have if there is some kind of data we need to transfer from one machine to another machine, we used to use floppies, and then we upgraded to the disks, and then in the discs as well, where we have this DVD and CDs coming into picture. We used to have rewritable DVDs and all these things, and then we have started using your jet drives or flash drives or pen drives that we call. And later after some point of time, we have gradually upgraded to a external hard disk which will have more storage capacity. But whatever data you are going to store in all these devices, always rely on that device, and you can only access that particular data or the content on that particular device when you plug in that device to a system or a laptop. But it is not publicly accessible anywhere. But understand a scenario when you're trying to store or upload a document or upload a file in your Google Drive or your Dropbox or any other uh, applications which will basically support or enable the functionality of storing the information on a cloud. I mean, Google Drive is nothing but it's a cloud service provider which helps you to store the data, or which will help you in storing some of the uh, images, or it could be videos or anything. So all these things are stored on a cloud and it is publicly accessible, right? Even if you log in on your mobile device, or even if you log in on your computer, or if you log in on your friend's laptop with your valid username and password with a particular subscription. I mean, as Google Drive is free of cost, you do not need a, I mean, you just need an account. But yes, as you have all these things, you will able to access the content of your Google Drive on any machine, correct? If that is connected to a proper internet. Here, as a end user, you are not going to manage anything directly. The only thing that you're going to do is you are just trying to upload or save your data onto Google Drive, and you're able to access it on any machine which is able to connect to an internet. So this is the advantage that we get with the cloud and the cloud computing, because it is seamlessly providing you a flexibility to access applications or access your data or store your data anywhere from any system in the world, if you have a proper subscription or if you have a proper internet connection associated to it. Right now, with the help of cloud computing, one of the biggest advantage that we get is user no need to manage, or a user who is using these applications no need to manage or no need to take care of anything. He just need to have an invalid internet connection. So let's take an example of you accessing your Gmail. When you log into your Gmail, right, we are not taking care of the authentication. We are just only creating the connection, creating a new account, and we are trying to log into that particular Gmail account with the valid credentials, and if the credentials are valid or not, or if he is basically authorized or supposed to access a particular account or not, or access this application or not, is always controlled by your cloud service provider, right? So what exactly is happening? Your cloud computing is providing you a simple way to access the storage devices or some broad set of applications that you have across your internet. And these services are distributed across multiple locations, and each and every location where these devices are enabled are called as data centers. So let's just try and understand what exactly is a data center. So, and we'll also see how exactly a data center basically looks like. So what would ideally happen? If you observe, this is how your data center basically looks like. And you have every cloud service provider, right? Every cloud service provider will maintain their own data centers like this, which are like very huge in volume. And each and every data center will basically have a capability which will help you to store your data, deploy your applications into a servers, and this will have high-end networking capabilities and high-end internet capabilities to access and provide this data at a real time. And ideally, these data centers will be really huge. See, it just look, and in this picture, as it is an aerial view, it might be showing very small thing, but it might be showing as a very small picture. But we just compare, right? This is one of the data center of Google, right? If you observe here, my bad. You observe this picture closely, right? You get to see there's a truck available over there. You can see the truck over here, right? If you compare the size of this building with respect to this particular truck, you get to see what is the span and what is the how huge this building is, correct? So the main advantage of these data centers is these will give you a flexibility. These will give you a flexibility to go ahead and have multiple racks and multiple servers inside it, which are connected to an internet and with high-end computing and high-end processing speeds. So me as a cloud service provider, so whenever you are going to create your Google or Gmail account, you get to see that you are going to get some access to your Gmail. Google Drive is a separate application, Google Photos is a separate application, and you have Google Documents as a separate application, and you have some n number of applications which are coming into picture, which are freely accessible for you, and apart from that, you also get a free storage space of 15 GB, correct? So all these applications will be deployed into this particular servers, and this particular server is not only an application server, but we will also have some kind of database which will be involved in it, which will give you a flexibility to go ahead and store some data and access the data at a real time. So this is how a data center looks like. So this data, with the advantage of this cloud and data centers, me as a end user, I no need to go ahead and manage or maintain any of my infrastructure, because this infrastructure is always hosted by some other third-party service provider, and we are just trying to use it, and we are going to pay a proper subscription to that. So this is how a cloud computing works, and this is the basic technology behind the cloud computing. And any cloud service provider, either it could be Oracle, either it could be uh, it could be your Microsoft, or it could be your Amazon, or it could be your Google. Anyone who are using will have the similar kind of services which will be accessible over internet. And for every cloud computing, or when you take any cloud service provider, right, you have basically different types of cloud service models coming into picture. So traditionally, when we look into any on-premise application, so in our scenario, as most of the participants are from the EBS background, so let's just try to understand these things in detail. So when you have an Oracle EBS application that you're going to work along with, you get to see that each and everything on your Oracle EBS, which is an on-premise application, involves your managing your database, managing your networking capabilities, managing your application servers and DB servers, and managing your installing your operating system so that your application could run on it seamlessly, and should always make sure that your application is always up and running, and you should always have a flexibility to render your application when a user requests for a particular URL, and there should not be any latency issues, or there should not be any network issues in accessing these applications, right? So you manage each and everything over here. And as you understand that, if you have been to any client location, or if you have been to any data center where you have on-premise applications involved, right? If you go to an Oracle EBS client, and if they have a dedicated server room which will have all this infrastructure, like your servers, racks, storage devices, they have their application servers, database servers, and very huge volumes of racks inserted inside it, or available inside it, and only a proper network administrator or database administrator will have access to it, and he will only control, or he will only take care of administrating all these tasks. But in the cloud service model, you have something called as infrastructure as a service, which is also referred as IaaS. It's called as infrastructure as a service. In infrastructure as a service, your network, your server capabilities, your backend database, your backend application servers, and your racks, and your networking and virtualization, everything will be managed by your cloud service provider. That means you are going to subscribe for a particular server. Let's say you wanted to install an Oracle EBS, or if you wanted to install an application on a particular device. So what will you have for every application? You will have a specific requirements of an operating system. You will have a specific requirements of your hard disk, and you'll also have a specific requirements of your processing speed and networking capabilities. Correct. So what are we trying to do? The networking capabilities, the processing speeds, and the hardware is what we are going to subscribe from the cloud service provider, and installing the operating system and enabling the functionality to access this data or applications on these particular storage devices is what maintained by you. So you do not have you do not need to manage or maintain your applications backend infrastructure. All this infrastructure would be managed and maintained by your cloud service provider or your vendor, and you only take care of how do you wanted to access these applications, and what kind of operating system you wanted to put on these applications, and what kind of middleware you wanted to use will be decided by you, and you will be managing all these things. And there's one more cloud service model called as platform as a service. In this platform as a service, the only thing that you're going to maintain is you are only going to go ahead and do it. Your what kind of application you wanted to develop, and what kind of applications you wanted to install on your servers is decided by you, and how the data is managed is also decided by you. But rest of all the things are managed and maintained by your cloud service provider only. This is giving us a flexibility to use a custom application, or develop a custom application and host it on a internet. So when you're developing any custom web application, let us say let's take an example. When you basically develop an EBS form or a report, what we basically do, once the form is completed or once the report is completed, we either move the RDF file into the application server or the FMB file into the application server. And when you move this into your application server, what will basically happen? You need to reach out to your DBA, because your DBA is the person who is going to give you the access and is going to maintain all these things, correct? But here, when you are going with a PaaS model, you do not need to have a DBA, because all these things will be managed by your vendor. Your vendor will take care of managing all these things, and you only need to develop the applications, and where to deploy is what you choose over here. And all the deployment perspective and all the backend infrastructure maintenance and the operating system maintenance and everything will be done by your vendor, because you say that, boss, I would need a machine with a hard disk of 500 terabytes, or 500 terabytes is what you're going to tell them, and this operate on that particular machine. I should have a high-end processing speed to run this application, and I should have a proper operating system is what you're going to say. And once you tell all about all these things, they will provision a system for you, and you just develop your application and you deploy your application on top of it. That's it. And we have one more service model called as software as a service. So in the software as a service, everything that you get to see here is completely managed by your cloud service provider or by your vendor. You no need to do or maintain or manage anything. The only thing you need to do is just start using your application. The best example for this is our day-to-day life. What we use is your Gmail, correct? Or even your Outlook in your organization environment, or OneDrive in your organization environment, correct? So what do you basically do? You just log into the Gmail. So whenever you log into your Gmail, it's your Google's responsibility to go ahead and show all the emails that have been received by you, and all the emails that have been sent by you, and all the emails that have been starred or drafted by you. So storing your emails, fetching the data at the real time, and all these things, and what is the middleware that is being used to fetch these details, and what is the application development methodology they have been taken, and how this application is basically running, and everything is not in the hands of a business user or end user. It is completely maintained and managed by your vendor, right? You just start using this application, and for using this application, your vendor might charge you a subscription price on a monthly basis. So this is a high level overview of your cloud service models. Now let's take, man, we have discussed about all these things, but let's just try to see a word example about what exactly is infrastructure as a service, what is PaaS, and what is SaaS, with an example. So let's say you thought of eating a pizza. You have four options. The first option is you try to make this pizza at home. A second thing is you just go to a grocery store, get a uh, get a ready-made, I mean, when it's a ready-to-cook thing, and you just get the ready to cook option pizza available in your store, and you just bring that to your home and you cook it for yourself. And the third option that you have is you just call to a pizza service delivery guy, and that guy will get the pizza for you. And the fourth option is you just go out and have your go to dine out and eat a pizza over there. So what is the advantage you get, or what is the option that includes in each and everything? So we will discuss that. First one is a on-premise or traditional methodology, correct? In a traditional methodology, let's say you're trying to make a pizza in your home. So you need to take care of making a pizza dough, or making your own sauce, or having a sauce available with you, or you need to take care of creating your having your cheese, cutting all the vegetables on your own, and you need to have your own electric or gas stove, you need to have your own dining table, and you need to have your own fire and oven to cook the pizza, and once the pizza is ready, you need to have a table to eat your pizza, correct? So this everything here will be managed by you and organized by you in case of your traditional on-premise application. But when you go for a infrastructure as a service, which is IaaS, you can consider it as a ready to cook food that is available outside. That means there is some set of ingredients and there is some set of uh, things that have been already available over there, and some of the the food is partially cooked. You just bring it home. You don't need to take care of creating a pizza dough. You don't need to have a tomato sauce or topping sauce. Nothing is required. What you need to do, just get the item from the grocery store, put it on fire or just put it on an oven, and then bake it. Just once it is completed, eat it. That's it. So this is removing the overhead of creating all the pizza dough, tomato sauce, and all these things on your own. That means whatever is required to make a pizza, right? That is not necessary for you. That you are not managing or maintaining that. You're just trying to get that from a grocery store and you're baking it on your home because in your home because it is ready to cook and eat. Correct? But coming to the next service provider, next cloud service model, which is platform as a service. In the platform as a service, what will ideally happen? You are trying to order for a pizza for a home delivery. So nothing is maintained by you. Just make a call. They will get a pizza for you. The only thing is you need to manage your drinks and your dining table to eat the pizza. And here there is again some of the manual intervention that is required by you. But coming to the last model, which is software as a service, nothing is maintained or managed by you. What you're going to do, you're just simply moving to a dining store or you're going to a dine out and you're ordering a pizza. Those guys will bake the pizza for you. You sit on you sit on a dining, you sit on a table that is provided over by there, and they get your pizza to your table and you eat it, and you just pay for the bill and you just come out, right? So here nothing is managed by you. The only thing that effort is required by you is the manual effort to go and travel to the store, right? So these, depending on your cloud environment or depending on the way how your organization want you to organization wants to implement or use a cloud services, you will choose either one of your cloud service model. And your Oracle integration cloud service, which is one of the cloud service model from Oracle, falls under your platform as a service model. So this is basically how your cloud service model basically works about. And these are the different types of cloud service models. So your OIC basically falls under this cloud service model. Now we have some other cloud service providers in the market available, and each and every cloud service provider has their own type of service models coming into picture, which is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? And our OIC basically falls under this platform as a service. OIC falls under this platform as a service model, and we need to understand what exactly is this OIC and why is this OIC helpful and how it will be how it will basically help or solve the real-time problems. Let's just take a scenario for a minute. In today's environment, let us say when we are working in a IT industry, or when you have any client that is basically is a Fortune 500 client or any of the client who is trying to move to the cloud, you cannot say that your organization is always using only one specific set of application for their day-to-day operations, correct? So what will ideally happen is, let's take an example of requisition to fulfillment process or the end-to-end business process, where your business process basically starts where you are trying to create a purchase order or a purchase requisition in your procurement cloud, right? And that should tightly get coupled with your Oracle supply chain management, because your inventory is where is being maintained in your SCM cloud. And whenever you procure a item or you raise a purchase order for a particular supplier, once the good is received, the receiving of the goods and everything is always maintained and managed in a procurement cloud only, correct? And that is going to finally hit your inventory, but your inventory is going to get managed in your supply chain management cloud. So you need to have an interaction between all these things. And whenever you're trying to create a purchase order, right, you are trying to make a payment and fulfill the invoice for your supplier. And for this supplier, when you're trying to make a payment, that again involves your Oracle financials, right? And your financials payables module will come into picture to make a payment to the supplier. And again, it get reflected in your general ledger module and also in your cash management module for maintaining and managing your business accounting. And once the invoice is fulfilled, you are going to make a payment to receive. Right now, if we consider about this process only with the Oracle technology, these are the things that are involved. But you never know, your client can go ahead and say that, boss, for managing my as a part of my procurement load, I will now choose to use an SAP application. And as a part of the supply chain management, I can either go for a JDA or Info. These are the other kind of ERP systems that are available with us. And you also can make sure your client can also have a alternative of using Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle NetSuite or Oracle e-business suite as a part of their financials implementation. So your client has a landscape of using multiple applications, and these applications need to talk to each other seamlessly in order to have a proper business flow. So everything here is decoupled because each and every system is different, and you need to also have a real-time analytics about how this data is being interpreted from one system to another system and how the end-to-end process flow is basically running out, right? So to achieve this, when we are on the Oracle EBS node or when we are using any on-premise applications, it was quite easy for us because we used to have access of database and we used to have a point-to-point integration approach, which will help us to interact with multiple applications. But now consider the same scenario in a cloud space, right? When the cloud has been evolving in the market, the entire integration architecture and the way how the applications are interacting with each other has been completely changed. But first and foremost thing, why a person should go ahead and use cloud, or why a client should basically go ahead and implement cloud. So as we have discussed with the cloud service models, we might have understood something like whenever we are going to a cloud service model, there is something which is always involved to either manage on your own. When you're going to when you're going to on-premise model, you're going to manage everything on your own. But when you're going to a cloud service model, you are getting a leverage of managing only a partial part, and rest of the thing is always taken care by your cloud service provider. So what would ideally happen is, like, let's say when you wanted to go ahead and install go and implement an Oracle EBS for your client. So for the first and foremost thing, what you as an implementation expert go and tell your client, boss, for installing or for implementing Oracle e-business suite, this is a bare minimum infrastructure that is needed by you. And what your client will do, your client will basically need to spend some millions of dollars, maybe depending on how big the organization is, to procure the entire infrastructure that is required for installing the application or installing the required operating unit or installing the operating system and networking capabilities to run that application seamlessly. This task should be done before your client is basically implementing and actually start using it, correct? So there is a lot of overhead involved in your client as a part of the basic basic cost, which is the capital expenditure that is incurred in procuring your servers and infrastructure. But when you choose a cloud model, right, what basically happens is your client is having a flexibility to convert this capital expenditure that is being basically invested on the infrastructure as a operational expenditure. That means your client is physically not procuring any infrastructure that is needed for installing these applications. They are simply trying to hire or rent that infrastructure that is required from a proper cloud service provider, right? So this particular infrastructure from your client might cost you around, like, let us say some $100,000 is what example we'll say. But that initial investment of $100,000 is now not required because your client is taking this particular infrastructure as a rental basis from your cloud service provider. And rather than investing $100,000 in one single go, he will get a leverage of paying a subscription price of 5,000 or $10,000 per month for using the infrastructure from a particular cloud service provider. So in this way, what is happening? Your client is saving the initial cost that is incurred in procuring the infrastructure, right? That is the first and foremost advantage that you get. And when you go with a SaaS model, everything is maintained and managed by your cloud service provider, and you don't need to go ahead and even need a DBA or any administrator to manage your task, because everything is maintained and managed by your client. Now, as a client, I'm going to use an on-premise. I'm going currently on on-premise application. So I'm using an Oracle e-business suite, and I wanted to make sure that my entire e-business applications landscape of financials, human capital management, CRM applications, supply chain management applications, and the ordering applications, everything I wanted to move, and I decided to move from on-premise to cloud. So what will your cloud service provider basically do is like, they will gone are those days where a client will basically go ahead and get all the services from only one particular vendor. Now, as we have a lot of options available in the cloud, what is your client basically doing at the moment is they try to choose a product from different cloud service providers which is of lower subscription price and which is having a higher demand in the market. Let's take an example. Salesforce is one of the first cloud service model that has been introduced in SaaS application style, or one of the first CRM application that has been introduced in the market as a part of the cloud service provider or a part of a cloud subscription. Initially, when Salesforce is launched, people has not thought that Salesforce would become such a huge game changer on the CRM space, and cloud will have such a huge impact on the IT industry. Now, people have now chosen to go ahead and subscribe for the cloud service subscriptions from multiple service providers. So if I wanted to go ahead and use an Oracle CRM product, compared to Oracle CRM product, your Salesforce comes with a lower subscription cost. And me as a client who is currently using a CRM product on an Oracle on-premise environment will now go ahead and choose to use a Salesforce as my CRM product on the cloud environment, but I still wanted to use the Oracle Fusion applications for managing my financials and supply chain management. So what should I do? I should have an integration that should come into picture with my Oracle Fusion application with the Salesforce applications, which will try to have a real-time synchronization as a part of my day-to-day business needs. And one of the example that we could take is, let us say when you're trying to create a when you're trying to create an account is nothing but a customer in Salesforce environment. And once a particular account is created in a Salesforce environment, that particular account should be automatically created as a customer in your Oracle Fusion application or in your Oracle ERP cloud. So this we can, because you cannot go ahead and ask your client, boss, go ahead and create the same customer again in your Oracle ERP cloud, is what you cannot say and tell your client. Your client expects that as I'm anyway creating an account in the Salesforce application, that account should automatically get synced at a real time into my Oracle ERP cloud, so that I can start creating an AR invoice or I can start receiving a order from the customer, is what your client will expect. So you need to have a synchronization between your Salesforce application and your Oracle Fusion application at a real time. And this is one of the examples that we are going to deal in our training as well. And the second example that we can also take ahead is, let us say your, as we have discussed, that your client is using your Salesforce as a CRM application. Now, once your application is a CRM, and whenever you are using this as a CRM application, there could be a scenario where you wanted to, your customer has created, you have created a claim for your customer. Claim is nothing but your customer has purchased a product from you, and that product is damaged, and you wanted to return back his amount. So there is something called as a claim process, and that gets created in a Salesforce application. And your financials is completely managed in your Oracle Fusion application. So what you need to do, that particular claim that is raised in Salesforce should be now created as an invoice in your Oracle Fusion application, so that you are trying to make a payment for that invoice and the amount gets related to the customer account is what we need to develop. So that is a requirement. So what you need to do, you need to have an interaction or integration with the Salesforce to your Oracle Fusion application, and this Fusion application will have an invoice created, and that invoice will be paid to the customer. So here it is a customer in the Salesforce that will internally get migrated as a supplier or a invoice. So when you make a payment for an invoice, you are trying to just simply create a beneficiary invoice, so that you'll just have a bank account and all the details coming into picture, and you will take that bank account and everything into consideration and make a payment for the invoice from the Oracle Fusion application. So once the invoice is cleared, that amount will get credited to the supplier to the customer account, that for a claim that is raised in Salesforce, and you need to communicate back to the Salesforce saying that boss, payment is cleared, so that the claim can be closed in the Salesforce application. This is one kind of interaction where you're trying to deal with multiple cloud applications. And the third and one more, you can also have one more scenario where your customer is on financials cloud, your customer is on human capital management cloud on Oracle, and your customer is also on supply chain management cloud on Oracle. So as these three different Oracle cloud products, they need to have a seamless interaction between them to frame a proper business flow, just the way how we have discussed over here, right? So all these things are Oracle cloud products. So each and everything should have a proper interaction between them to complete an end-to-end business process. So what are we trying to do right now? So these things should get interacted with each other to have a seamless business process completed. And you have one more scenario, which is a third scenario, where you have an application that is coming into picture, which is on premise. By the nature of the application or the way how this application has been developed, you cannot take this application at any cost to your cloud environment, because that is how this application has been designed or that application has been implemented, and this is one of the critical application in your client environment. So what you need to do, you are on Oracle ERP cloud on Fusion, and there are some applications that you need to interact seamlessly, which are on-premise environment or your client environment, and you need to have an integration or interaction between these two applications so that your business process will run seamlessly. So this is one more scenario where you need to interact with your cloud to cloud with the same service provider, a cloud to cloud between multiple service providers, and cloud to on-premise applications between same or different vendors. So in order to address all these integration challenges, your Oracle integration cloud service has a flexibility which will give you a high-end integration between your on-premise to cloud applications, cloud to cloud applications from the same vendor, and cloud to cloud applications from different vendors. So all these issues can be addressed by using your Oracle integration cloud service. So we have just discussed what are the integration challenges, right? So that we have discussed that legacy integration is always too complex. So earlier, when you have your Oracle on-premise environment or EBS environment, we always used to have a point-to-point integration. But here, there is no capability of doing a point-to-point integration, because some of the applications are relying on the cloud and some of the applications are relying on the on-premise environment. So that cannot be done right now. So that needs to be addressed. So here, data cannot be moved from hybrid environment. Hybrid environment is nothing but your application environment is on cloud and on-premise. So this is called as hybrid environment, right? And your business process automation should always be aligned. That means whenever you're trying to create an integration between data flow from on-premise to cloud application, you also need to have a proper workflow and approvals defined, so that until or unless a person is approved is for giving an approval manually, either by an email by doing a particular task, your data should not flow from your on-premise to cloud. So you have a particular automation required to have this data movement. So that will also be a huge challenge, and most of the important task that is coming into picture is the analytics part. So this is where your business can decide on how much revenue they're going to generate when they are going to use this application, because at the end of the day your client is looking about the revenue when they're doing some business, and how well your current application is giving you the flexibility to perform an analytical or provide an analytical information on the operation that is being taken care on their environment is also required to them, correct? So taking all these things into consideration, these are all the integration challenges that can be addressed, and these integration challenges can be simply addressed by your OIC, because your OIC, which is an Oracle Integration Cloud Service, is having the flexibility to establish an integration between your cloud to cloud services and cloud to on-premise environments as well. And it is always a configuration or a zero code approach. You no need to write any single piece of code to develop an integration, how complex it is. Each and everything is always done and managed by a configuration approach. And as we have discussed that OIC has three different components. One is the integration, second one is a process cloud service, and third one is a visual builder cloud service. Currently, we have some other integration cloud service providers, I mean some other PaaS service providers which will help you to have an application integration. And we have some providers like MuleSoft, Informatica, Tipco, Boomi from Dell. I think the Dell has sold the product to some other organization, and we have some other products which are enabling this functionality to you. But OIC is the only integration product that is available in the market, which gives you a flexibility to develop your custom applications for mobile and web using your VBCS, and also develop a custom business process automation using your process cloud service. So OIC not only allows you to integrate multiple applications which are both Oracle and non-Oracle applications. Apart from that, it is also giving you a flexibility to go ahead and develop your custom web and mobile applications, and also develop your custom business processes. Your business process is nothing but you can relate it to a workflow as your in your EBS environment. So that this OIC tool is giving you that flexibility, and no other integration product that is available in the cloud is giving you these options in the market. That is the game changer, and that is one of the biggest advantage OIC is having in the market. And OIC is a combination of three different products, which is application integration, process automation, and visual builder. Your application integration is the one which is giving you flexibility to integrate applications across cloud, cloud and on-premise, cloud at different customers, and different on-premise applications as well. And process automation is the one which basically gives you a flexibility to go ahead and develop a particular business process. Let us say if an invoice has been created in a third-party system, that should be now first approved by the user, and then only that invoice should be going ahead, and we should initiate a payment in SAP system if your client is using an SAP as a payment as a financials. So this kind of business process automation can be designed in your client environment with help of PCS. And if you wanted to define any custom applications or design any custom mobile and web applications, that can be done completely by using your Oracle Visual Builder Cloud Service, right? So let's just jump into the Oracle OIC instance and see how OIC is basically uh, uh, looks like, and how the instance basically looks like, and how do we access this instance. And we'll also discuss this particular part that we have said that the development approach that we follow in OIC is purely a configuration based approach. That means you are not writing any single piece of code here, correct? Everything what you're going to do is purely a configuration based approach. So let's just try and understand how OIC will basically look like and what are the options, and we'll also try to understand the navigations at a high level. So when you go ahead and start using any when you go and start using any OIC application, the first and foremost thing is you receive a URL from a client like this, and ask you to it will ask you to provide a valid username and password credentials. And once these credentials are authenticated and authorized credentials are valid, once you click on sign in, it will take you to the application homepage like this, right? It will take you to an application homepage. We can have multiple OIC environments, which will give you a flexibility just by simply accessing a URL, and that will bring you to land on a particular page, right? You can have multiple OIC. Any OIC environment that you basically access will have a simple URL, and you basically land on a page like this, right? And as I mentioned, right, OIC has a flexibility to go ahead and integrate with your on-premise and cloud applications as well, correct? So once you go to the integration, you have multiple options. So this process will basically help you in developing the business processes using your process cloud service, and your visual builder is the one which is basically helping you to create your web and mobile applications using your visual builder cloud service on the OIC console. And if you go to your integration perspective, the biggest advantage that you get with OIC is with respect to the adapters, because these adapters are the one which are pre-built by Oracle and which are pre-installed, and this will give you the flexibility to connect with any system that is hosted on cloud or any system that is available in on-premise environment. So let us say you name an application. Let's say your client is using both Oracle Cloud and SAP system, and you wanted to integrate both of them. If you just look for an SAP adapter, you have an Oracle SAP adapter, SAP S4 HANA adapter, and you have SAP Commerce Cloud adapter, right? So these adapters are the one which will give you a flexibility, which will give you a flexibility to go ahead and which will give you a flexibility to go ahead and connect with any third party system that is available in the market or that is available in your client environment, right? That is, each and every application that is available in your client environment can be integrated with respect to your adapter. So when these adapters are required when you create a connection. So let us say when you're trying to create a connection and you wanted to interact with your Oracle ERP cloud application, right? You get to see that if I am on Oracle ERP cloud, I can just use or select this particular adapter to go ahead and create or establish a connection to this particular application. So not only there are, when you just type an Oracle, you get to see you have cloud products, and you have your Oracle e-business, which is an on-premise environment. You have an Oracle database, which is an on-premise environment, and you have your Oracle Siebel, and you have your Oracle even you have your NetSuite applications and everything that will come into picture, which can give you a flexibility to connect to both your cloud and on-premise environments. And let us say you have a requirement where you come and tell me that, boss, I have an application on my client environment that is not on cloud, and I do not see a proper adapter over here, right? I do not see any adapter for that particular application because that is a client in-house application purely developed by the client, and I do not see an adapter over here. So how do I go ahead and create an integration to the client's third-party system which is available on premise using an OIC? So what is the approach, or what would be my approach to perform these integrations to these systems. So the answer for this, what OIC provides you is, you either have a third party system which is relying or which is interacting with a database, or your third party system will definitely have a capability, or if it has a capability of connecting over internet and exposing any web service either on SOAP or REST, you can directly interact with them. So let us first take a scenario where your third party system is purely depending on a database. So what will Oracle OIC will give you a flexibility is, Oracle OIC will give you a flexibility to connect with your IBM DB2, your Oracle database, or you also can interact with MySQL server. Right? These are the most commonly used on-premise database environments for developing your client third-party application. So if your client third-party application is using any one of these databases, you can directly interact with them using the OIC. Or the second option that we have just chosen, which is where your client application is hosted on a internet, or it is a web application, and that is having a flexibility to expose a web service. So what you can do is, you can just make use of your REST or your SOAP services to connect your client's in-house third-party system using an OIC. But if, let's take an example where your client is having both Salesforce, so you can just go and connect to your establish a Salesforce connection using a Salesforce adapter, and I will create a Salesforce connection over here by using the Salesforce adapter, and I'll also create one more connection to Oracle e-business suite. I'll say Oracle ERP cloud. I'll say this Oracle ERP cloud. I'll choose this particular Oracle ERP cloud adapter to create one more Oracle cloud connection. And once the connection is created, I'll use this option of integrations to integrate both Oracle and Salesforce applications. So this is one of the integration that we have designed, which will basically synchronize the accounts created in the Salesforce application with the ERP cloud customers. That means whenever an account is created in a Salesforce application, you whenever an account is created in a Salesforce application, you wanted to automatically create that as a customer in your ERP cloud. So we basically make use of these connections that has been, or that we have created using these adapters, and we go to the integration console over here, and integration canvas will give you a flexibility to develop these integrations. So let me just deactivate this integration for a minute, and if I just go and click on edit this integration, you get to see that all these options that you get to see on the integration canvas is purely a drag and drop approach. You have your connections coming into picture, or you have your adapters that are coming into picture, which will give you a flexibility to go ahead and use them with a configuration approach, and even the data mapping, how it needs to be moved from one application or from the source to target, is also well defined over here with respect to a visual mapper. And this visual mapper will give you a flexibility to understand how the data is being exchanged from one system to another system in a visual or drag and drop based approach. You don't need to write any piece of code over here. But let us say you are a SOA developer and you have experience developing an applications, or if you are well versed in writing your custom XLS XLSTs and or developing your transformations, you also have a flexibility to go ahead and write a code over here, which will automatically do the mapping for you in a visual way. So the advantage that you get with OIC is like each and every operation that you perform in the OIC environment is always a configuration and a drag and drop based approach. You no need to go ahead and write any piece of code, and whatever are the whatever are the requirements you wanted to achieve, most of the things can be achieved by the pre-built options available in OIC. And if there are any high-end level of customizations or any high-end level of transformation that is required, then you go ahead and use a libraries. But these libraries will be written in JavaScript, and almost 99% of the use cases what you wanted to develop in OIC can be achieved by the pre-built functions available in your Oracle integration. You no need to go ahead and create any single piece of code or write any single piece of code to establish a proper integration between two different systems. And you cannot go ahead and create your custom adapters. Oracle has an adapter that has been created to interact with each and every application, and using one particular adapter, let us say you have an Oracle ERP cloud connection, one adapter can be used to create multiple connections. Let us take an adapter style, which is a connection style as Oracle ERP. Let me just click on apply. Okay, let's just do one thing. Yeah, let me just say this Oracle ERP cloud. I click on apply, and we get to see that you have multiple Oracle ERP cloud connections available in this OIC instance, and all these cloud connections are created using only one adapter called as Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter. So you have an adapter called as Oracle ERP Cloud, and using this Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter, which is pre-installed by Oracle, you get to see here the complete information and the documentation about it. And using this particular Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter, you can create n number of connections in an OIC environment. And once you create a connection, this connection can be used in multiple integrations. You get to see, right, this particular connection, which is BRT06 ERP cloud connection, which is created using an ERP cloud adapter, can be used in multiple integrations as a part of the integration development. So let's just take a pause here to take up any question or any Q&As before I proceed further. So any questions from you guys before we proceed further?
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. So just on this point, the last point which you showed, the connections.
Yes,
So
please.
yeah, is my voice audible?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, you know,
Yeah.
I'm audible. You're audible. Please go ahead.
So yeah, so when we have an adapter to connect to your ERP,
Yes.
what makes you to create these many connections? Once we have one connection to an ERP, why can't we get all the data over?
Okay,
And
I'll tell you.
what makes this? Yeah.
Okay, this is a training environment, right? So that is the reason you go ahead and get to see multiple connections. But I'll also give you a scenario where you are trying to create an integration, and your client environment will have three different. Maybe your client environment will have one of the integration, one of the ERP cloud environment on a development. One is a development environment, one is a test environment, and another is a UAT environment, and another is a production environment. Okay, so I have an integration and which is currently in a development environment. So before moving it to UAT or before moving it to the test environment, I wanted to make sure if this integration is working properly or not, right? Because this integration needs to move to the higher environment. So what I can do, I can also create one more connection to this using the same ERP code adapter to a test environment. I can test this integration to see if it is seamlessly processing before I give it to my business users or to the functional functions to perform an unit testing or a user testing on top of it. Correct?
Okay. Uh, So that is one test case, one use case where you want to do multi-environment test before migrating your script into that.
Yes.
You
Yes.
just
But
test.
ideally in your client environment, what you basically do is for the OIC instance also will change for your test development and your production. They cannot maintain one
Exactly.
particular OIC environment for all these three things, correct? So
Yeah, that's true.
if it is one particular client that you are using, you will only create one ERP code connection and you use that connection in multiple integrations. But as this is a training environment, multiple people will start practicing it. That is the reason you get to see multiple connections with same adapter. Got
Okay.
it?
So on the other note, say I have this Oracle ERP on-premise or cloud, and I have
Yes.
7 different modules implemented on it, right? And I have
Okay.
all the 7 modules are interacting with my integration. So my accounts
Okay.
payable going into another system, my
So
receivables going into
your
another system.
okay, to answer your question, your ERP cloud connection will support all your procurement, financials, and supply chain management modules. Okay.
Okay.
But if you are specifically looking for HRMS modules, you need to go ahead and choose one more connection called as Oracle
It's
HCM Cloud Connection.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
This will support all your human capital management operations, including your core HR, payroll, compensation management, absence
Okay.
management, everything
So
will support
basically,
it.
there is no need to have a module specific connection. So once you have a
Yes,
connection to financials one, this one is one, probably SCM one, or
yes, you are
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So I'll give you a basic example. So if you see here, let me just tell you some example. So this is a journal import service, right? This is an AR invoice service, and I mean these are the different type of integrations that we have created, and you get to see uh, this is an payables invoice service. For performing the payables invoice, journal import, and the AR invoice, or even to perform a procurement operations, I can just simply rely on only one connection called as BRT06 ERP Cloud Connection, which is used in all these integrations. See, AR invoice service, your Salesforce integration, your journal import service, your payables invoice service, all these things which are dealing with multiple modules, all these integrations which are dealing with multiple modules are being handled only by using one particular connection, right? Because your ERP cloud connection will have a flexibility to interact with your
fine.
financials, supply chain
Yeah,
management, your procurement, and your order OM module as well. And for
okay,
HCM, you go ahead and create a different set of connection, which
okay,
is Oracle HCM Cloud connection.
thanks.
Clear?
Yeah, thanks.
Is it clear? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, now, so whatever configuration we are doing it here, whatever connection you are going to do, let's say I wanted to create an ERP cloud connection, or let us say I wanted to create an Oracle e-business suite connection. You just need to provide a name over here. Let me say demo EBS connection 13 June 2022. And if I just click on create, you observe that you just need to provide the connection URL and you need to provide the username and password, and you can just simply click on save. That's it. Your connection will internally use this Oracle e-business suite adapter or Oracle ERP cloud adapter that you have chosen when you are creating a connection, and this will take care of session management, right? This will take care of your other username and your authorization management and everything. So I'll tell you the reason behind it. One of the most advantage you get is when you're trying to implement or when you're trying to create any connection to a particular instance, either it could be an ERP cloud or either it could be any third party application. The first and foremost challenge that you get to see is like you need to have a proper mechanism that comes into picture to validate if this particular user that you are going to provide to log into this instance is valid or not, and when you are interacting it or you are interacting to it from a middleware. So definitely you need to have something that needs to be done from your end to maintain this authentication management from the third party system. And the second thing is, when you whatever is the way you try to manage to overcome the other authentication mechanism that is being taken care by your third party system and redesign the same thing over here in the middleware. The second thing comes into picture is about a session management, because when you're trying to run an integration and that integration is running, you need to make sure that that session never expires until or unless the integration is completed. And during the scope of the integration run, the session should never expire, correct? So all these kind of session management activities and your other client credential authorization management activities and everything will be taken care by your adapters which are pre-built by Oracle. And as a integration or a middleware developer, I am not bothered about what is the mechanism or what kind of programming language I should know to interact with a Salesforce application or to interact with SAP application or to interact with a Oracle EBS or a NetSuite application. I am, as a developer or an integration developer, I am not considered about this, because my adapter will basically do this job for me to provision me a way where I can smoothly connect or interact with the third party systems just by providing the valid URL and the authorization credentials. That's it. And rest of the things, how, what programming language and how to interact with that system is always maintained or managed by your adapters which are used by your connections, right? So that is one of the biggest advantage that you get with OIC, because this is one of the crucial tasks that needs to be taken care in your client environment. And apart from that, to ease the development of a developer, Oracle has also given something called as Oracle Cloud Marketplace. And this Oracle Cloud Marketplace is the one that basically comes into picture where you can go ahead and search for a particular product that is available in your Oracle integrations. And if, let us say, there is a requirement where you wanted to interact your Salesforce application with your Oracle e-business suite, right? So what did Oracle do? Oracle has given some pre-built integrations taking the industry standard requirements to interact both these systems to create a opportunity that is created in a Salesforce as a sales order in your Oracle e-business suite environment. If you are having a client who is using both Salesforce system and e-business suite system, or if he is a client who is using both Salesforce system and Oracle ERP cloud system, and you wanted to make sure that whenever an opportunity is created in a Salesforce system in a real-time scenario, your client is expecting you to create an opportunity in the Salesforce, create whatever opportunities created in the Salesforce. Against that opportunity, you wanted to create an sales order or an order in an e-business suite or in ERP cloud. So as per the industry requirements, what are the bare minimum mandates or what are the bare minimum requirements to have a data transfer and to develop this integration? Oracle has given you some of the pre-built integrations which can be used, and you can make this as a base to develop your integration, so that rather than starting everything from scratch, you have a flexibility to go ahead and use this as a base, and which will also give you a faster time to market. Rather, let us say to develop this particular integration, you are trying to spend around 2 to 3 weeks of time, but using this particular pre-built integration that is given by Oracle, or a recipe that is given by Oracle, what you can do, if you try to use this integration as a base to develop your integration, you might cut down your time. You might cut down your time to a week or 2 weeks, and which will allow you to go in a minimal time to the market and use this integration in your client environment. You get to see some of the free recipes or integrations provided by Oracle, and you also get to see there are some paid integrations that will come into picture, and there are some kind of organizations which are making a living out of it. So you get to see some of the organizations will create these recipes and accelerators, and they go to the Oracle and they get evaluated from the Oracle, and if Oracle has approved the solution, what you get to see, you will get to see that this will be hosted in an Oracle Cloud Marketplace, and if any client is having this kind of requirement, they will just simply go ahead and use this particular, purchase this particular recipe or particular product from the cloud marketplace and use it in their client environment. But most of the scenarios, are almost 99% of the business use cases which require interaction between multiple third-party systems as a part of your Oracle ERP cloud use cases will be hosted by Oracle here by default for you as free of cost.
So
Okay.
in this case of Harry, so in this case of using any marketplace integration, uh,
Uh-huh.
it's just that we get the whole code base and we download and then start using it, right?
Yes,
There is
we just we
there's
just
no issues in terms of proprietary and nothing, right?
there is no
It's just
proprietary information because this is free of cost from Oracle. Okay, so you
okay.
just it will give you some details about what is the use case, what, how this is being built, and it will also give you some integration diagram at a high level, and you can just go through this valid use case. And if this, you feel that this is a synchronization between your Jira and NetSuite application, correct?
Okay.
Right? So Jira is a ticketing system, right? And NetSuite is an Oracle system. And if there is any issue that is happening in the Oracle NetSuite system, automatically this particular ticket should be created in Jira, and it should be assigned to a proper
Yeah.
person to take care of this ticket. So this can be implemented by using this use case, and you can just simply click on get app. And if you have a proper valid credentials with Oracle, and if you have a proper Oracle subscription, or if you have a proper email, a valid professional email, this particular integration and all these details will be sent to your email, and you can just use them in your integration for building your integration. Okay,
Thanks.
is it clear?
Yeah. Thanks.
So one of the main myth that you get to see with OIC is like people basically think that OIC is an integration tool that comes into picture to integrate only Oracle products. But if you look into the kind of adapters that Oracle is providing you over here, right? If you look into the kind of adapters that is Oracle is providing you in the uh, Oracle OIC console, you get to see there are a mix and match of both Oracle and non-Oracle cloud and on-premise adapters, and this is a very extensive list, right? And with each and every release of OIC, and for each and every quarter, Oracle will release either a new functionality in the existing adapters, or Oracle will release a new adapter which will give you a flexibility to go ahead and integrate those systems directly. Okay, That is the biggest advantage that you get with Oracle. Now, your Oracle OIC will support both on-premise to cloud and cloud to cloud integrations seamlessly. And whenever you try to create an integration, right, we make use of these connections. These connections are the one which these connections are the one which will act as a base to create your integrations. So the hierarchy goes in such a way that your adapters will give you a flexibility to get interacted with any cloud or non-cloud or on-premise environments, and using a connection, right? We create a connections, and these connections internally uses these adapters to communicate with the external systems from OIC. And when we are creating any integrations, we use the connections and configure them to create an end-to-end integration flow between multiple systems right? So let us say you wanted to interact with SAP, and whatever item is created in SAP system, you wanted to create that item automatically in your Oracle ERP cloud, because your procurement is there in the Oracle cloud system and your inventory management is happening in the SAP system. So in this scenario, can someone of you guys tell me how many different kind of connections do you require to create this integration flow? Okay, so in this scenario, what we require is we need a SAP. We need one connection for SAP system, and we need another one connection to Oracle ERP cloud to go ahead and interact with your procurement. And these two connections are what we are going to use in your integration to flow the item details, or to integrate the SAP and Oracle ERP cloud system to move the item details from SAP to your Oracle procurement cloud as a part of your day-to-day business operations. Okay, so your connections play an crucial role in designing your integration. And whenever you're trying to create any integration, Oracle offers you 6 different styles of your integrations that you can create. And this is one of the questions that you can expect in your interviews when you are looking out for a roles for Oracle integration architect or Oracle integration developer. So what is the difference and what is the advantage with this integration styles we get, and depending on what scenario we need to create this integration, choose these integration styles, is what we will discuss in tomorrow's session. And before that, I would like to go ahead and also walk you guys through the course content, because before you enroll to a particular session or to enroll to a particular course, you should get to know what are you going to get when you enroll here, and what exactly is the topic that I've been discussing over here, correct? So let's just try and understand. Let's just try and understand what exactly are you going to cover as a part of this training, and what are you going to get when you enroll for this particular training. So we basically get to know about what exactly is OIC in detail. We get to understand the navigations in OIC, how to go ahead and create an OIC instance in your Oracle Cloud infrastructure. What are the different kinds of roles available in OIC? What is the importance and differentiation between each and every role? And we'll try to understand the different kinds of navigation that are available in OIC. And once that is completed, we'll also discuss about the basics of web services, because what would ideally happen is this particular course is targeted not only to a tenured professionals, but a person who is completely a fresher or who is completely new to the cloud environment. He should have a good amount of understanding about what is a web service. So we are going to discuss about what exact basics of web services and get familiarized with the different kinds of web services available, and understand how to call these web services or how to use these web services, and what is the advantage you get when you interact or when you go and use web services is what we're going to discuss in detail. And then we'll start developing the integrations using OIC. So we will discuss multiple use cases which will revolve around all the different kinds of integration styles, available in the OIC console. And for each and every use case, what is the most relevant integration style we need to use, and how we go ahead and decide the integration style that we need to choose is what we will basically go and understand as and when we go and push it further. And we will also create an integrations which will help you in playing around with files and performing multiple operations on files using OIC. And we will develop some integrations which will help you to create journals in the ERP cloud instance by interacting or by getting a data from your third-party system. And we will also get to know how to performing the loopings, how to create a loop, or what kind of options, or how to create a REST service call or SOAP service call, or how to interact with any third-party system which is either on cloud or on-premise is what we'll get to see. And we'll also see about exception handling and fault handling and notifications that come across in the OIC. And we'll also see a use case which will basically deal with calling a REST service available in the Oracle ERP cloud environment to create an AR invoice, or to create a purchase order, or to create a payables invoice in the ERP cloud system. And we'll also see that whenever we have a large volumes of data that needs to be interacted between multiple systems, right? In ERP cloud, ideally we follow an approach called as an FPDA automation. We'll also see how to automate this FPDA process using an OIC integration, and what kind of capabilities will OIC provide you to automate this FPDA process to import bulk data into the Oracle ERP cloud is what we're going to see about another use case. And we'll also see some integration that will revolve around a style called as publish to subscribe integration model. So what is this publish to subscribe integration model is about is what we're going to learn. And we'll see how to perform a real-time synchronization between multiple systems using your publish to subscribe integration model. And we'll also see a use case which will help us in performing an integration between your cloud database to Oracle ERP Cloud and your on-premise database to Oracle ERP Cloud. And we'll also discuss something about the agents which will help you to integrate your on-premise applications with your OIC environment. And we'll also see a use case which will revolve around integrating your Salesforce application with your Oracle ERP cloud environment. And we'll discuss two use cases to integrate your Oracle HCM cloud application using your OIC, right? Your Oracle HCM cloud will also deal with the HRMS data or human capital management data, and we'll see how to perform a bulk load operation into the HCM cloud and how to perform a directory sync from HCM cloud and transfer this data to the third party application in the real time. And we'll also see how to invoke an ESS job, which is equivalent to your concurrent programs in your EBS from your OIC environment, which are available in ERP cloud, and how to invoke a BIP report that is available in the ERP cloud from an OIC integration, and how to perform an outbound data integration style from OIC is what we're going to do, and how to use these integrations in a real-time scenario. And we will also discuss all these use cases with respect to a real-time scenario to understand the integration perspectives and the designs. And once the integration is completed, we are going to start with the VBCS application, where we are going to develop a VBCS application, which is both web and mobile applications that will help you to interact with the business objects and also with the REST APIs. And then once the VBCS application is developed, we will start understanding the basics of your PCS application. And once we start understanding the PCS application, to understand, and we start developing the basic business process automation using PCS, we will work on a mini project which will span across 8 to 10 hours in the scope of this training. And this is one of a use case which gives us a flexibility to understand how your OIC can interact with VBCS and how your VBCS can interact with PCS and how your PCS can interact with OIC, right? And we are now going to develop an AR invoice web application which will create in VBCS, and we will configure it to have an approval workflow. And once the approval workflow is configured and it is completely approved in the PCS application, we will go ahead and create an invoice in ERP cloud. And this use case gives you a higher level of understanding about all the interactions that can happen between three different components that are available in OIC and integrate with your Oracle ERP cloud environment. And once the mini project is completed, we will look into additional advanced use cases about what is a dynamic process, how to use decision models, and how to use mix and match processes in Oracle PCS applications. And we'll also try to create a VBCS mobile application, build these applications, deploy and test these applications in the real time. So on the whole, this training would span across 6 weeks, starting from Monday to Friday. Every day it will be around 1.5 to 2 hours, maximum of 2 hours, including your doubt clearing session. And we will have this training spanning across 55 to 60 hours approximately. So at the max, you can go to till beyond 65 hours at the max, because we will also go ahead and see some more use cases which are not as a part of this course content as well. But each and every session will be around for 2 hours of time, which will start from Monday and on Friday on every week. So 5 days a week, we'll have 2-hour session per day, and you are going to get the OIC instance access for practice for 2 months, and you'll also get an ERP cloud instance access, and you'll also get an FTP server access, which will be used as a part of this training. And during the course of this training, we'll also help you to understand all the real-time scenarios and develop them as a part of the training environment and as a part of your lab exercises. And we'll also help you in your resume preparation, certification preparation, and preparing for your interviews. And whenever we are discussing about this course and whenever we are developing something, as in when it is required and as in when the particular topic is being discussed, and if in that particular topic, if you can expect any questions on your certification exam or any questions in your interview, we'll also help you in telling you which topic is important for your interviews and for your certification clearance, and we'll also give you guidance on your certification preparation and interview preparation, and making you ready to transform your careers from a normal EBS or ERP developer to your OIC integration developer. So this is what I have to discuss for today's session. Is so before closing the session, if you have any questions or doubts that needs to be clarified in the course content or in the session that has been discussed so far, please feel free to shoot me your questions, guys. So any questions or doubts in the course content and any questions in the that has been discussed so far?
Details are good. Are you planning to put anything related to API CS?
Sorry?
The API CS part of Oracle product.
API CS is not a part of your OIC. API CS is a separate cloud service subscription that is hosted by your Oracle. And API CS is a different set of training that is not a part of your OIC training.
Do we have any specific training for the API CS? No?
I think you need to check with the institute base about that.
Okay.
Yeah, they will be able to help you with respect to the API.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah. So any other questions from other participants? Okay, guys. So if you do not have any other questions, we'll close the call here. And
From when we are going to start this
yes, yes, please.
batch? From next Monday? Doesn't it?
So see, the batch will. So we'll again connect same time tomorrow, and the batch will start continuing. And if you are interested, you can enroll and reach out to the institute guys, and you can enroll with them, and they'll put you in the batch. First, the first 4 sessions should be demo sessions. I mean, these will not have any particular separate demo classes. So the course will be started from day one itself, and you will be allowed to join the meetings or join the sessions for the first 4 days for free of cost, and post that you will need to enroll with us to continue further with the trainings, right?
And in terms of post timing, this is the regular batch timing, 7 to 9 or something. Except the regular time.
This is a regular batch training, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Indian Standard Time will be the regular time.
Oh, fine. Yeah. Thank you.
And if you have any other questions with respect to the training and with respect to the timings and all, you can reach out to the institute guys and they will be able to help you with the details. Okay. So we'll meet again same time tomorrow guys, and we'll discuss with the remaining part that is available. Thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks for your time guys.
Yeah.
We'll meet again same time tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a great day. Bye-bye.